Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Snapterms, online legal protection made simple. Visit snapterms.com and enter the code TWiST to receive 10% off. And by Walker Corporate Law, a boutique corporate law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. For more information, visit them at walkercorporatelaw.com. And Amazon Web Services, the fastest growing, hottest startups build their businesses on Amazon Web Services. Learn more at aws.amazon.com/startups.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and this is an amazing episode of This Week in Startups. I'm so excited that you're going to get to see two interviews I did with two of the hottest, absolute lightning in a bottle apps currently on the market. Of course, Tinder, the dating app that a lot of 20-something-year-olds are going crazy for, and Lyft, a cheap way to get around town. So I've got the founder, Sean, of Tinder and the founder, John, of Lyft, and they were just so honest and open with me at this Launch Mobile and Wearables event we did. You're going to just love these interviews. Even if you couldn't afford the $5,000 ticket to the event, we're giving these interviews out for free to the This Week in Startups audience. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
I mean, this is just two of the most important social companies right now. How are you?
Good, how are you?
So a slightly different social network, as it were. Tinder for meeting new people as opposed to building the relationships of, or meeting new people, right? It's an explicit version of Tinder is to meet new people. So when did you guys come up with this idea? What was the inspiration?
So it was about a year ago that we started to think about the...
Can you try pushing that in a little bit?
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
afraid those people are not going to hear you.
Can everyone hear me?
Check, check.
Check. Good?
Can you hear him in the back? Thumbs up? Okay, good.
Great.
Okay, great.
So there's a lot of ways for you to connect with people that you know, and there's great tools like Path and Facebook that bring you closer to your existing network. But meeting new people, we found, is a challenge to society, but it's also a growing challenge. And what we realize is you could really put the world or individuals in two buckets. Either you're a hunter going after a relationship, whether it's in business or a romantic encounter or whatever it is, and you feel like you're constantly putting yourself out there and you feel overwhelmed and you're getting rejected, or you're on the other end of that and you're being pursued or you're being hunted and you feel like there's all this noise around you and it feels weird and overwhelming. So we realized that Facebook and Path and all these other platforms, while they're great at helping you connect with people that you know, they're also making it more challenging to meet new people because now you can hunt more often, get rejected more often, be hunted more often, and be more exposed. So what Tinder does is our goal is to overcome some of those barriers, those physical and social barriers to you meeting new people. And one of the ways we do that is if you express your interest in somebody around you, and that person expresses their interest in you back, only at that point are you guys exposed to that interest and can talk to each other. So it starts every relationship at sort of a heightened level.
So it's double opt-in.
It's about that double opt-in.
Right. As opposed to traditional dating sites where I can send a message to anybody and just...
It's a little more open and a little more exposed. So,
got it.
Yeah.
So... there's a male-female dynamic in this regard in traditional dating sites?
I think when we talk to girls, I think there's more of a social thing happening, which is they tell us that when guys approach them, if they're in a bar or a restaurant or out and about, no matter how attractive the guy is or how good they look, they're still, or how attracted to them they are, there's still this like invasion of their privacy that they feel, and I don't know if that's a societal thing that people are changing, but it's a challenge for girls because they feel constantly creeped out, and they feel even more creeped out on these other platforms. But for Tinder, it's sort of giving control back to both the pursuer and the person who's being pursued, and saying you're not going to feel like you're putting yourself out there, and as somebody's being pursued, you don't need to feel overwhelmed, and I think it gives control to both sides of the equation, makes everyone feel comfortable.
And it has a really unique behavioral hook. Maybe Do you want to show your stats, or do you want to show just a quick overview? Let's just show the overview in case people don't know what it is. How many people here have, I don't want to say used Tinder, but have seen Tinder? How many people have seen Tinder? Okay, great. I'll tell you my first experience. My friend says, you got to check out this company, Tinder. You should invest in it. Didn't work out. And so I log in, and he takes my phone, and he says yes to 100 people. And he goes, now you're going to meet all these women are going to say yes to you, and then you'll start conversations with them. 0. Literally 0. My market value is 0 out of 100. I told this to my wife, and she's like, well, maybe I should try it. I was like, no, your market value is going to be like 99. Please don't do that.
I think we talked about that. You had a picture of a dog in your profile. Which was
that was me,
reason, right?
Well, I just pull my Facebook photos, but I'm not a very good-looking guy, so apparently, or this is for 19-year-olds, not 42-year-olds.
So the idea here is that we're taking the people around you and we're prioritizing them based on their relevance to you. So in this case, Mackenzie in the area, she has one common friend with me, and I can say that I like her
By swiping to the right.
By swiping to the right or clicking the heart.
And this is becoming like a little bit of like people refer to people as a swipe right as opposed to a swipe left.
It's definitely sort of entering pop culture, I would say.
Right.
It's like I swipe you right, swipe her left. So we're definitely seeing that everywhere.
It'll be a joke on Conan O'Brien this year. Like, okay.
Probably, but sorry about that. Okay. So in this case, I'm saying no, yes, and this picture I think says a lot about this girl. It gives me a piece of information that allows me to sort of assess whether I'm attracted to them or I'm interested in them. To us, it's the equivalent. The whole experience emulates me walking into a room or restaurant, looking around me, and I'm kind of subconsciously already saying yes, no, yes, no. But what we're doing is we're
physical attraction.
Yeah, it's not only about the physical attraction. I think there's a lot more to it that goes to, there's
style.
There's your body language, your style,
aura,
who your common friends are, your aura, and a lot of that we try to capture in these profiles.
But that's what those two numbers are down there, right? Like shared interest on the right from your Facebook and shared friends.
Yes, and shared friends. And there's a lot of things that we look at in the back end. So we look at your common interests, we look at your sort of your explicit signals that you give to Tinder, and then we look at the implicit things. So whether you swipe right or left to somebody who has certain qualities over somebody with other qualities, we start to learn and optimize as you go.
Interesting. So you might learn that one person likes blondes or brunettes or a certain age.
Yeah, or you might have a deeper conversation with somebody who you went to college with.
Oh, I see. So it's even how long you might. That's an interesting signal too.
So there's actually a lot of data points that are being generated from a simple swipe, yes or no.
So what would be a data point that would surprise us, like, or not surprise us about, hey, people who share these qualities, hometown, college they went to, music they like, TV show they like, how many they wind up meeting in person more often or chatting more often?
So I think this is probably an obvious one, but people who share common friends end up meeting in person more often because I think it establishes that trust. And the social graph is a powerful tool to help you discover new people because when I like to think you can tell a lot about a person based on who your common friends are. Like I might have a friend who's really into sports or maybe he's an athlete and that's his life, and there's a good likelihood that if you're connected to that person, then that means something. I might have friends in tech, and if you're connected to that person, it means something. So I think it's not only establishes trust and credibility between you and the person you're matched with, but also tells you something about them. And that's sort of the most interesting signal, I think, inside of Tinder.
Yes, Snapterms. If your website doesn't have a proper terms of service or privacy policy, you are risking costly litigation. There are ambulance-chasing law firms out there that are looking for your startup to slip up and not have that terms of service up there, and they will barbecue you. It will be barbecue sauce. Do not let yourself get barbecued by these beep, beep, beep lawyers. Go get Snapterms. It's simple, it's affordable, it's the fast, easy way to create a terms of service and a privacy policy for your site. Protect yourself, protect your team, protect your investors. We use it here at This Week in Startups. Go to thisweekinstartups.com/legal, and you'll see our very funny, clever, and easy to read terms of service. Go to snapterms.com and get started. Use the promo code TWiST, and you get 10% off your order at checkout. Snapterms.com, snap, as in it's a snap, terms, as in terms of service. snapterms.com. Get 10% off with the promo code TWiST. Thank you so much. I know they do like custom solutions if you have something really funky going on with your business or, crazy, you can just get a custom solution there. But hey, they start at only $2.99, which is like 10% or 5% of what an attorney is going to wind up charging you. So go check out Snapterms. Thanks so much. Let's get back to the program.
Now, it's not just a dating app, from what I understand. People use this to, because it has a proximity feature, which we didn't talk about, but you can set the people you want to meet within a certain very tight range, right? Like, how tight can it go? A mile?
We let you go as deep as a mile.
Right.
Yeah, as close as a mile.
Close as a mile. So people hanging out in a bar with a group of friends can look for other groups of friends to hang out and just...
Totally.
It's sort of like one of those proximity social networks, like a Highlight or Scout in a way.
So, the core context is that you're meeting somebody that you probably have some sort of attraction to, although we never sort of explicitly state the context of Tinder, other than showing you somebody of the opposite sex or the same sex, depending on what you want to see. But what we found is the predominant reason that the predominant result of these matches is dating or romance. But what we found is there's a lot of people who are moving to cities and then using Tinder to meet friends, right? Or just make friends in that city. Or there's constant emails that we get about people telling us that they've created business relationships on Tinder. And I think those are more spontaneous relationships because all we're doing is we're creating a match between you and somebody that we think has a lot of commonalities or similarities, or somebody you should know. And ultimately what happens, the dialogue dictates the rest. It's like if you walk into a bar, you walk up to a girl, there's no saying if you're gonna end up doing business with that girl, marrying that girl, becoming friends with that girl. There's no context when you walk into a room, and there's also no context when you walk into Tinder.
Now, has somebody done LinkedIn for like a Tinder version of LinkedIn, and have you talked about doing a business version internally?
We think about it all the time. We think about what the other verticals that we can apply Tinder in are, but I think we're really focused right now on sort of romance or you attracting somebody that you want to. Call it dating, call it whatever you want. I don't like the word dating just because I think in our generation, the younger users don't really associate the word dating with necessarily something. I think it has so many interpretations.
They kind of hang out, right? This new generation just hangs.
It's like I'm hanging out, or I'm seeing a girl, or I'm dating a girl, or hooking up with a girl. I mean, it's like there's so many ways you can categorize that relationship that we don't want to be in the business of categorizing. We just want to sort of connect you with somebody.
So I can't help but notice you've said that you're interested in a lot of these women and you're getting 0 matches. What's going on?
Right now?
Yeah.
I
was about to this is what happens when you get a match. But like myself, we're both coming up with, so just say yes to 10 people. Let's see what happens.
I just opened Tinder here, which means it just put me in San Francisco.
Oh, I see. So you're just getting
yeah.
put into the lineup, as it were.
Yeah, it's just calibrating, so I should start getting matches soon. But, I mean, I definitely have no shortage of matches.
Whoa! Being the CEO of Tinder
helps.
has its benefits, apparently. Wow.
So, what we're actually working on, so this is in the coming releases, is we break our entire experience into pre-match and post-match. So it's about helping suggest people that you should know, and then once you connect with them, helping you get closer to them, and then manage all the matches that you have. So right now you saw I have a lot of matches. There's actually a lot of users, a good portion of our audience that has a lot of matches. And now the problem has become, how do you take that graph? Maybe it's a graph of people that you want to know or that you want to get closer to, and how do you make sense of that for our users? And that's sort of the next chapter of Tinder, is helping you sort of break the ice with people that you just matched with, and helping you categorize, organize, and make more sense out of your history of matches over time.
And so let's go to your statistics. We can switch over to the deck. Mm-hmm. This has been a tremendous, tremendous success. How many months into the app are you now? Is this...
We're about 9 months of really being deep into the market, and
20 billion ratings in that time.
Yeah. So ratings are what
Swiping.
Some people call swipes. We call them profile ratings. But we've had 20 billion in that time, and that's growing at an exponential rate every week. So every day. So now we're doing 1 billion a week.
And you just launched the Android app last month or the month
We
before?
launched about a month and a half ago.
How is that going?
It's crazy. You know, it's amazing. Day one that we launched it, our organic registrations went up by like 70% every day. Just because there's a lot of word of mouth of Tinder. You know, you're telling your friends, and
Yeah.
someone that I might have told might have been on an Android and couldn't download Tinder, but now they could.
Is Android going to be a larger portion of your base than iOS?
You know, right now, it's about 1/3 of new signups. So it's, and actually the majority of that is fueled by international growth. So in the US, iPhone or iOS is still our primary sort of, most of the user base is on iOS right now. But we also, I mean, we started there, so I think there's more of a penetration into like sort of groups of users that have iPhones. So I think it's trending to be about 50-50.
Any more statistics, or we just have that one slide?
Yeah, so before that, you saw we have 200 million matches. So these are unique connections that we made in the app, and that's growing at about, it's actually 20 million a week now. So these slides are, that's how fast it's actually growing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just an interesting, to put that all into perspective, in New York City, which is one of our largest cities, we, in 1 hour, and this is sort of averaging peak and non-peak and just sort of capturing 1 hour of Tinder, there's 620,000 profile ratings in that 1 hour, and then 18,000 matches and about 50,000 messages that are exchanged or sent messages. And then, you know, we have collectively about 20,000 requests hitting the server every second. So, and you know, scalability has been sort of our primary focus right now. It's just sort of responding to this demand.
And Los Angeles also huge.
Huge, yeah. Los Angeles is sort of comparable to New York. I mean, we're growing. Definitely, LA and New York are one of our most populous cities, but we're growing internationally at a pretty surprising rate. Actually, it's all organic.
Let's talk about two of the challenging questions: safety and monetization.
Mm-hmm.
Whichever one you want to take first.
Let's talk about safety. So, that's something that you're going to learn more about soon. So we're launching a whole new experience of Tinder.
Oh, okay. When's that coming? Oh, October.
That's coming soon. We've really sort of, you know, the core experience is the same, but the visual experience is really going to evolve. We've taken a lot from what we've learned right now with sort of our current users and a lot that we can do with iOS 7. And
Oh, okay. What would be an example? Tip your cards a little.
Just wait and see. I think.
Give me a little.
You know, it goes back. Well, I'll give you an example. I think we're all about people.
Right.
So it just makes sense that when you're looking at somebody, that the whole entire experience around that person sort of molds to what you're looking at. So I think you're gonna see very unique UI, sort of there's very unique interface, I think, in our next version
Okay.
that we're proud of and that we're excited to throw out there and experiment.
Montage.
Yeah.
More than one photo per slide?
No, just wait.
All right, we'll wait for it.
There's some cool stuff coming.
Okay, so safety. Obviously, anytime you're in the dating business or hooking people up, we've seen, you know, in the real world, bad things happen. So we have the Craigslist killer,
Yeah,
who obviously
scary.
decided to kill people because of Craigslist.
That's scary.
Yeah, but that was a movie of the week, was that he was the Craigslist killer as opposed to just the guy who kills people at truck stops or street corners. How do you deal with the backlash? Has that already started a little bit? Are you and because it does seem to be, isn't this safer than meeting people randomly in the real world?
Yeah. So surprisingly, and we have a fairly large audience. Surprisingly, we get a very few number of requests related to either people in fear of their safety being compromised or having their safety compromised. And the requests that we do get have less to do with Tinder and more to do with sort of the circumstances of where they are and what they're doing. Tinder is safer. I think nothing is fully safe.
Of course, the world is not safe.
The world is not safe. Tinder is safer for a variety of reasons. One, we allow you to only talk to the people that you have an interest in. So you could sort of filter through the audience, and you're not as exposed, like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation.
So if you're only saying I like 1 out of 25 people, yeah,
You're limiting your exposure.
you would have to pick the psychotic, crazy killer.
Exactly. Or you could say, I'm only going to like people I have common friends with. And that's the next thing. Because these identities on Tinder are tied to Facebook, and because a photo on Tinder has to be a photo that you're willing to expose to the public on Facebook, and because we leverage your social graph to sort of provide more context and credibility between these connections, I think we've given you more tools to delineate between somebody you can trust and somebody maybe that you should have doubts about. What the result is, more and more people are meeting in person, but also those relationships are more secure and more real. And then lastly, we have different things that we've introduced recently, such as like a report button, and we do a lot to sort of find patterns algorithmically inside of Tinder that we might think are not sort of conducive to the ecosystem, and then we might flag
Somebody
those
just
users.
started a Facebook account. They started 3 Facebook
Exactly.
accounts, and then they log in with the same user ID on iPhone.
Exactly. Or if you're just sort of messaging every single girl the same thing, or we track a lot of things.
Have people been doing crazy stuff like that?
No, I mean most of the ones doing it are actually considered spam bots,
Right.
and we're weeding those guys out.
Are there
But
a lot of spam bots in the system? Yeah.
We're getting hit really hard by spam, but luckily we got a great team that's
How
responding.
do they do
accordingly.
that on mobile phones? Are they doing emulators? How do you-
There's ways around it. I don't want to give anyone ideas, so I'm not
Right.
going to say, but there's ways around it.
So people, figure out how to. And then what is the goal of the spammers? Are they trying to get you to click on a link to go to a acai berry
Exactly.
weight loss program?
Similar to spam on Facebook, similar to spam on Path or any other platform, they're trying to lead you down a path of sort of transacting, and they're trying to mislead users. But we have a lot of things in place where we track it very early.
The velocity would have to be just so easy if somebody says yes to 100 people.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and actually another thing that we have, which isn't, I wouldn't really call it spam, but there's a lot of local businesses that are creating Tinder profiles.
Oh,
trying
so
to match with
genius.
people. Yeah, they're trying to match with people in order to, which that's actually something we haven't killed because I'm actually curious to see where that goes.
So I'm a local bar. This is my host or hostess, and they're saying yes to everybody, saying, "Hey, meet me at this bar."
Yeah.
I happen to be the host.
Yeah.
Or the
Well,
bottle service person.
Yeah. Or it's the business, or it's the manager trying to connect with people in the area to do market research. The fascinating thing is there's all these unique use cases that people are creating for Tinder, and partially we have the singular focus, but there's all these little byproducts that we're closely watching out of curiosity to see if one of them might make sense for a broader feature that we might create. But there's all these interesting use cases: friendship, business connections, local businesses trying to connect with their customers. But this concept of the double opt-in is really sort of taken form inside of Tinder.
Verification of identity. We now have thumbprints on iPhones.
Yeah.
You could build a system where people were verified in the system, even more so than the Facebook, verification, because that's not perfect, obviously. Is that a possible revenue model for the system?
I actually think that social validation is a more stronger area of identity than actually physical identity or
Credit card
or whatever. I think if we could do more like Facebook has to understand sort of your graph and understand your behavior within Tinder and the different touch points that you have, there's all these signals that we can collect and sort of come back and decide, not only how valuable you are to certain users, but also decide whether you're valuable to the ecosystem. And I think that is more of the interesting things that we're looking at inherently inside of Tinder versus identity you can purchase, so to say. So we're focused on that. And
We heard about virtual goods from Dave. Is virtual goods and being a premium member something that would work in Tinder enhanced profile, whatever?
You know, they're being in the space that we're in. There's a variety of ways we could monetize. People are definitely. I like to think when the value proposition is introducing you to somebody new that you could create a relationship with, that people are willing to pay for that in one way, shape, or form. We don't know exactly how we're going to monetize. It's something that we think about all the time, that we're exploring. There's definitely areas where we can introduce virtual goods inside of Tinder. We can sort of have in-app purchases to charge you for certain functionalities that other users might not have. And then there's definitely an ad-supported model. I mean, we have a lot of brands who are approaching us, and that we're sort of entertaining discussions with just to think about how we can introduce that into the ecosystem in a way that doesn't take away from the user experience. But I think one thing that we have decided is no matter what we do around monetization, our core set of functionality, the value that we're giving to users today, we will continuously give to users, and we'll never take that away. And we're never going to introduce like a monetization method that takes away from the user experience or sort of puts a roadblock in front of you. Yeah. We want to enhance the user
It
experience.
would certainly be great if every 10 swipes or whatever, you saw a movie trailer or the potential of a movie trailer, and if I don't like it, like TrueView ads on YouTube, I could swipe it right. I don't care for that movie. I swipe it right, I can actually say I like it. It goes on my profile that I like that movie.
Yeah, this wasn't an ad in Tinder, but we did a partnership with the TV show Suits. And as part of, they integrated us into areas of the show, but as part of the partnership, they took Harvey, the lawyer, as a character and put it inside of Tinder. And then Rachel, the other lawyer, and put it inside of Tinder. And if you matched with them, you got exclusive content for the season premiere.
That's so brilliant.
It was insane. So we increased their viewership by 30% from the previous year. And that was like directly correlated to Tinder because their season, there was a 30% increase from their season opening to the next episode. In between that, we had the Tinder campaign. And our users loved it because they got funny, exclusive content. Some of them actually had a chance to interact with Harvey. So the writers of the show were actually interacting with our users. And we're seeing other brands requesting like a similar engagement. There's just, we're focused on sort of solving the other challenges we have before we get to monetization.
Listen, continued success. The product's incredible. The buzz is amazing.
Thank you.
It's a startup out of the incubator that IAC did or something? Or it was spun out of IAC, or you started there?
It started inside of Hatch Labs, which is an incubator that IAC funded. And then from there, Tinder was born, and now IAC and Hatch is still part of it, and we're sort of just rocking away.
But you must have massive, massive interest from investors now. It's very rare that a product takes off this fast.
We have some meaningful interest, yeah.
But you haven't done a deal yet.
No, we haven't. I mean, we're fine. Our relationship with IAC gives us access to a lot of capital. So we have the support system we need from not only internally, but also within IAC, and then other members in the community who are sort of helping us figure out certain challenging problems that we're having, and then we have all the capital that we need. So we can't make a case for raising outside capital yet.
What does Facebook think of what you're doing, and how's the relationship there? Final question.
To our knowledge, they're happy with Tinder, and for two reasons. One is they're not in the discovery space. They're in the social. I want to connect with my friends and better manage my friends all the way up to acquaintances. I kind of look at it as this continuum. Path is on, or iMessage is on one extreme. It's like my people in my address book that I continue with. Path are like my very close friends, and Facebook is like close friends all the way up to acquaintances. Tinder takes off after that, and we're in a very different space, but also a lot of these relationships that are created on Tinder, and there's been 200 million of them up to date, they result in Facebook friends. So the common thing, actually, we track some of these things in there's not a human doing it, the computer does it, but we track how many messages to exchanging a phone number, how many messages to asking for your Facebook account, And we find that Facebook, people exchanging Facebook information is actually a very common thing after they've exchanged a lot of information, or they have had a lot of messages going back and forth.
Awesome. Well, listen, continued success. We'll be tracking it.
Thank you.
And everybody try Tinder.
Thank you.
Well done. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, Scott Ed Walker is a good friend of mine, and he runs the Walker Corporate Law Group. It's a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups, and he is a mensch. He takes care of everybody I send over there, and I just saw him at the This Week in Startups Live in San Francisco with Steve Jurvetson, and you know what? He just came up to me and he's like, Jason, it's been such a great partnership, and I said, I feel the same way, and we was like a whole group hug thing. But he said, I get all these great entrepreneurs, these first-time entrepreneurs calling, and I love to spend time with them. And I said, yeah, and I love spending time with them too. It was really, really great. And the reason I feel great about sending people over there is because I know he's going to treat them well. And because he encourages fixed fees. That means that you will pay a set amount for each of the services you need and not get that shell shock and that, oh my God, how am I going to pay my legal bill? Crazy feeling in the bottom of your stomach when you feel like you're going to puke on your keyboard because you just got an $18,000 bill for something you thought would cost $1,800. Not from Scott Walker, not from the Walker Corporate Law Group. All of their attorneys have decades of experience at the major firms, mergers and acquisitions, licensing agreements, everything. If you want to talk to the founder himself, Scott Walker, call 415-979-9998. That number again, 415-979-9998. Scott at walkercorporatelaw.com is his email, Scott at walkercorporatelaw.com. He's a great guy. He answers his phone. He responds to his email. And you can just visit walkercorporatelaw.com. Put in the subject line of your email, Uncle Jason sent you, Scott at Walker Corporate Law. Thank you so much for sponsoring and partnering with me on This Week in Startups for now. I think it's like 3 years Scott and I have been working on this together. Let's get back to this amazing program.
Another one of the most popular apps of the moment and services. Welcome.
Thank you.
How many people have used a Lyft in the last 30 days? Raise your hand. Okay, great. How many have used a Lyft or Uber or other ride-sharing service in the last 30 days? Wow, that is essentially everybody has used one of these services, and at least half, maybe 2/3 had used Lyft. When did you start Lyft, and what's the latest in terms of number of rides and how this is scaling? Because it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, so we launched Lyft about 14 months ago, and we announced a couple months ago our millionth ride. And over the last 3 months, we've doubled the rides per week we're doing from 3 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what cities now?
We launched our 14th city. We launched Dallas last week. We're now 14 cities, so Chicago, Boston, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Atlanta, Phoenix, Seattle.
And the major difference between Uber and Lyft when people describe them is?
Yeah, so Lyft, we're focused on the peer-to-peer experience.
Yeah.
So I think Uber has done a fantastic job with the professional driver. And similar to Airbnb, we're trying to bring the peer-to-peer experience to rides.
Got it. And so when people take a Lyft, they are not agreeing to a specific price like an Uber driver per mile, per minute. They are giving a donation at the end.
That's right.
And so how often does that result in the suggested donation versus higher or lower?
So on average, the amount that is donated is greater than the suggested amount.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And what is the original concern or dig of the service was, well, what's to stop somebody from giving $1 or $5?
Yep.
Why did that never become an issue, do you think?
I think, we've built a couple of things into the product where the driver can create a filter for the overall average that they're willing to accept. Someone at any point that they're in a Lyft can donate whatever they want, but a specific driver can show themselves as available to those that donate 50% and higher and things like that. But I also think the dynamic of the experience, the peer-to-peer experience, I think for the most part, Lyft is built on the principle that people are good and that people want to contribute to a system that helps them out. And I think that's paid off.
And the really unique feature is anybody who has the Lyft app can press a button and become a driver.
Yep.
Is it that simple?
So there's several steps you go through. An interesting stat.
I never clicked on the button, so I don't know.
Yeah. So there are a few steps. We do a criminal background check,
Got it.
A driving record check that are both more strict than taxis and limos. We do a car inspection. So we go above and beyond for safety. But we've streamlined that process as much as possible. The interesting thing, like you're saying, is that people use it as both a driver and a passenger. So 73% of our drivers are also passengers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what's the state of acceptance of peer-to-peer ride sharing, as it were, today? I know California last week came out with an opinion.
Yeah.
And what was that, and where does that put you as a viable concern in the state of California?
Yeah, so about a week and a half ago, California came out with new regulations that authorize Lyft and other similar operations in the state of California. I think that was a massive milestone for the company. One, regulators showed that you didn't need to compromise on safety or innovation to create a new category. And it just it demonstrated to other jurisdictions kind of a path forward for this type of new service. Oftentimes when we enter a new market, there are lots of questions because, rightfully so, local regulators want to understand the safety behind a service like this, and the regulations they have in place were written at a time where this wasn't possible. So the regulations typically don't cover the type of transportation that we provide. So this provides a good roadmap that doesn't compromise our operations, but allows for common sense safety regulations.
I should make a note, full disclosure, I'm a small angel investor in Uber from the early days, but I've used both services and enjoyed both. You allow a range of drivers, a range of cars in the service. Are there limitations on how old the car could be and the like?
Yep, so it's 2000 and newer right now.
Okay.
And they have to be 4-door.
Okay. Yeah, you don't want to have that whole...
Yeah, there's one exception. There's a Ferrari in Chicago that's 2-door. Yeah.
Somebody's using a Ferrari for Lyft?
Yeah, it looks good with a mustache. So.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's not like a gimmick on your part? Somebody actually did that?
No, we haven't actively gone out and looked for
I think those cost about $12 a mile to maintain over their life, so that person's certainly losing money. Las Vegas seems to be a town that is particularly persnickety when it comes to these regulations, but could awfully use it. I mean, all of us have been harangued for $50 cab rides for 2 miles apart during trade shows and conferences. Yeah. What's the state of Vegas, and are you hopeful?
I'm hopeful across the country. I mean, I think that this type of innovation is on the right side of history. More affordable, more convenient, and more safe transportation is something that any voter is going to want in a region. And so when politicians, when it comes down to it, when they have to when the spotlight is shown on them for, do people want this, I think this comes out on the right side.
Is this competing with driving, or is it competing with public transportation, or is it competing with cabs in your experience, with Lyft specifically as a brand, with peer-to-peer? What does peer-to-peer compete with? I
think one main thing we're trying to do is to provide an alternative to car ownership. From the early days, in 2007, Logan, my co-founder, and I started Zimride, which was more for long-distance rides. And it was replacing the old college bulletin board where you could share a ride home for fall break, things like that.
And this was when,
2007.
So Zimrides was in 2007, wow.
Yeah, and Lyft came out of Zimride.
Right.
We recently sold Zimride and changed the company's name to Lyft. But we've always been after this idea that 80% of seats on our roads and highways are empty at all times. And there's this massive infrastructure that could be built based on that information. And typically it has been physical infrastructure, in the Northeast, from canals to railroads to highways and roads. And so now our idea is that if you can create this information infrastructure, things can be a lot more efficient. And so what that will compete with, or what that will complement, will be, you don't have to drive alone. You don't have to necessarily own a vehicle in certain cities. We've heard from many users that they're getting rid of their vehicle because of Lyft. And I think it opens up new avenues that weren't necessarily available. So of course it does compete with existing modes, but it also, we're seeing people use it in ways that they weren't using taxis, the ways that they weren't using public transportation and actually getting out and around their city more easily.
It's inducing more travel, is it not? People say, well, I can get to this area where maybe I would have just gone to the local deli or the local restaurant. Maybe I'll try that one across town because it's only $8 in a Lyft.
Yeah, I think definitely in some situations. I think we're very supportive of there being some studies done. There's a researcher at UC Berkeley that wants to look into this. I think it's important, often what we say to potential regulators is that we don't look at something on day one or year one, but we try to look a couple years beyond and what this can open up. When they first looked at car sharing, so Zipcar type solutions, they found that it increased vehicle miles traveled because it made things more convenient. But then I think a few years into it, they found that vehicle miles traveled were dropping, and what was happening is people were getting rid of their cars, but it took them time to change that behavior and shed their vehicle.
I was in a Lyft a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Driver was from Atlanta or something, college educated. Told me he was making $500 on some nights. How much are Lyft drivers making when they work 12 hours?
I mean, I guess that's a good example.
Is that correct, and is that common? Let me say it that way. What is the common rate per hour? $30, $40 an hour for these drivers?
It depends on the market.
Okay, let's take this one, San Francisco.
I think the average ride is about $12 or $13, and you can do 2 rides an hour if you're available for that.
So
hour.
$25 an hour, $30 an hour, not uncommon in the system.
Yep, and then on more busy times you can do more than 2 rides.
He also told me, my investigative report, interviewing my driver, that he was getting 100%. And in some cases, 105%.
You commented on that.
Yes, I tweeted it. 105% of the revenue during peak hours that you guys had such a shortage of drivers, you were giving 100% of the money, and in some cases 105% of the money, a 5% on top of it, to get more drivers on the road.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I think the 5% is legend, because we don't do that.
Why would the driver say that?
For New Year's, we did go above.
Okay, that's probably what they were referencing.
Maybe that's what they were talking about. And it was actually greater. We doubled, but we didn't charge the passengers for that.
Right.
But
there are peak times when you give 100% to the drivers.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're doing different experiments to correct the fact that there are times when demand is higher than supply.
And does that actually work, get many more drivers? Because you take normally, what, 20% or 30%?
20%.
So that extra 20% means they're making an extra 25% on the 80.
Yeah.
It's a 25% increase. And that's where they could hit that $400 or $500 in a night, possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, you realize getting paid $500 a day is an extraordinary amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, I think it demonstrates this opportunity. There's a massive demand for transportation, for affordable, safe and efficient transportation, and it's working. Yeah.
How big is the company now? I mean, I know.
So in the last year has been pretty incredible and crazy for us.
Yeah.
But we've gone from about 50 to 140 people.
In terms of the staff, yeah.
In terms of the team, yeah. Internally.
How many drivers are active in the system these days? I mean, on a city basis or just in general?
So there's several thousand. We haven't released an official number, but there's several thousand.
How much does it take to really get somebody onboarded? This whole interview process and training. Yeah. Do they get trained as such? And what does that training involve? Because that seems to be the only real criticism I can hear of any of the services, whether it's Uber, Lyft, or Sidecar, any of them now is, are these drivers trained, right? Mm-hmm. It was safety, it was, will they tip or not, just millions of different things. Are the cars safe? But now it's sort of, are the drivers trained?
Yep.
How much training goes into an average driver today?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we did at the beginning is we reviewed processes for other forms of transportation, and we tried to set the bar higher. I mean, these drivers are, like, the idea is that everyone eventually can be a Lyft driver as long as they get through our vetting process. Do you have a car?
I have a car.
Yeah, so I think
I'm an excellent driver.
Yeah.
Dad lets me drive in the driveway. Yeah.
A lot of us have been driving and have experience driving. I think there are things that we spend time on in terms of training, which would be a new development. Like if you're doing a couple drop-offs, some tips on how to do that. Additional safe driving tips, because anyone that is part of the program, we want to be a safe driver. But the baseline is that everyone's a driver and has been a driver for a certain period of time. We require at least a year of driving history. We look back on their driving record 10 years if they have that history.
What do they have to have on that history for you to say?
So right now, you can't have more than 2 points in the last 3 years. This is pretty strict.
So that means if you ran a stop sign, no way. Because those were all like 3 point.
If it's a 3-point violation.
Yeah, I think those were like 3-point violations, running a stop sign, running a
DUI
red
in the
light.
last 7 years. You'd be surprised. Black cars in the state of California, there's no criminal background check. So you could have infinite DUIs.
Is that
and
correct?
drive a
Really?
That's true. There's no criminal background check. And then the driving record checks for taxis and limos are much less strict. So you can have many more points and many more violations.
So you've set the benchmark higher,
Yeah.
yet you're criticized more.
Exactly, and we knew that coming in. We knew that creating something new, especially with transportation and people that didn't previously necessarily know each other, there would be this criticism. But the facts are, just because we've been socialized to feel comfortable getting into a yellow car or a black car, that when you look down deep into what the processes are, I think, and part of the reason Lyft has grown so fast is because this is actually more strict.
All right, let me ask you about this. I got in a Lyft. This is going to be all just my Lyft experience.
Sure.
And the woman offered to sell me an apple pie.
To sell you an apple pie?
Is there a lot of that going on? Are people selling a lot of apple pies in the system? She's
That
like,
is-
I made some great apple pies, but I bring that up. I'm joking with you, but I bring it up to illustrate. It's kind of funky and fun, and there's the fist bump, and there's the the mustache on the front. It's drawing a certain type of joy to the business. And
Yeah.
Is that like the sort of culture of the company? Is to add this like joy and fun?
Yeah. So my personal background, I went to hotel school.
Oh, did you really?
Studied hospitality.
Cornell?
Yep.
Okay. There's only
And-
like 3 or 4 of them in
Yeah,
the country.
yeah.
I happen to know.
Yeah, it's
my
like-
wife went to that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so the idea was, how do we create a beautiful, delightful hospitality experience when we're not even there? And so things like the pink mustache.
The apple pie.
And how does that happen without it? Like I never heard of that. We
Right.
didn't know about that. But having that pink mustache, which is supposed to get people to smile, having the fist bump to help break the ice, and then talking about through the training process kind of what the core values of the company are, what makes people unique. Show your true personality, follow your passion. People are incredible in this city and in other Lyft cities across the country, and they bring their own personality to things. We have drivers that have like a DJ who has put a DJ booth in the back of his trunk, and when he's waiting for passengers, he'll spin. We have
The Ferrari.
The Ferrari. We have Cookie War Lyft, where there'll be 2 batches of cookies, and the passengers vote, and the prevailing cookie will be he'll have a new competitor the next day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's a bracket system.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty brutal on
Yeah.
the peanut butter cookies there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So every system has bad actors. We talked about it with Tinder, et cetera. And in this case, you rate the drivers. People can report drivers
Yep.
for bad behavior and all those kind of things. And you're going to have to fire with thousands of people at certain times. What's the benchmark for firing a Lyft driver?
So we have the rating system, and we've also created an algorithm that will basically, because we've done over 1 million rides, we have 1 million points of data, and you can predict based on certain patterns of feedback the likelihood of this person being safe, the likelihood of this person being successful on the platform. So pretty quickly, we can either coach someone or offboard someone based on that feedback. It's very strict as well, but
Take us into it a little bit. I mean, offboarding,
Yeah.
AKA firing. You've had to have done this. What does it take? Is the person rude? Because it does seem like these systems
Yep.
are, and I mean this very sincerely, are changing driver and passenger behavior.
Right.
Passengers are not being obnoxious
Right.
and puking in the back of cars because they will get a bad rating and never be
Yeah.
able to use any of these services again. And drivers are now, I guess, being more delightful because the ones who weren't delightful
Yeah, you
previously.
can hold them accountable. And
There's
and
accountability.
There's also, especially with Lyft, having a Facebook profile, and we can check to make sure it's a legitimate profile. It adds this sense of this is a real person. This is not anonymous anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like you're saying, for drivers
Humanity
and-
comes back, huh?
Yeah, for drivers and passengers, when you're not anonymous and there are ratings, it leads to good behavior.
But you do have to kick people out. Out of 1,000 drivers, how many have to be kicked out? Do you think? You must keep that statistic.
Yeah, it can be
It's
anywhere.
got to be really low.
It can be. It's under 10%. It's probably around 5%.
So 5% of people who try don't make the cut.
Well, no. If you start from those who apply, currently 10% of those that apply are approved.
Got it.
So 90% are not getting through the initial screening process.
So
then
10 out of 100 get in.
Right, and then of those 10, maybe it's about 5% that then would be off-boarded.
1 out of 20 make it,
Yeah.
get bounced.
Yeah, and I think that's a testament to that initial screening, that it's quality up front.
Uber's been trying a whole bunch of different things, ice cream and planes and trains and
Yeah.
not trains, but helicopters, whatnot. Do you guys see yourself moving into food trucks, or is it just enough to run the P2P network?
Yeah, I think we're very focused on peer-to-peer transportation and building out this consumer information infrastructure. So you won't be seeing planes and trains from us.
Well, listen, I wish you all the success in the world with the continued success, and I know everybody's really appreciative of the service you're providing, and I think it's great that you're setting the benchmark so much higher for your service than is required by law.
Yeah,
So fist bump.
thanks.
Good luck with it. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming and sharing and being so honest with us, John.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Yeah, my pleasure.